how culture and content impact e-commerce.
And to talk about this, please give it up to Michelle Held, founder at Metrony. I don't hear you. Please give it up to Michelle Held. Louder, please. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle. I work with international, global e-commerce sites. We have about 156 offices. I work mostly with Sub-Saharan South Africa, LATAM, Far East Asia, and we deal a lot about how culture and your content impacts sales. So it's more, well, you've heard the session before, it's more than just translating into language. It deals with how the content is delivered, what format it is in, what kind of device the user is listening on, where they are, and then what appeals to them. So your sites and apps hopefully get global reach. That's our goal, is to increase our sales. And we also do some fundraising. You want to reach globally because you want to increase sales, and so do we. So translating to more than just English, it's just not enough. So why care about culture? Why care about culture and your content? Well, if your sites are reaching globally, you could get into a lot of trouble. If you break local etiquette, you deliver some content that the user's not accustomed to seeing, it simply turns them off. It also could be unlawful, and then when you physically land in that country, you could actually end up in jail for the content that you unintentionally delivered. So translating to a major language like English, Spanish, Mandarin, Chinese will get you a lot more reach, but it's simply not enough. So if you just translate it to English, like this conference, you'd only reach about 20% of your targeted audience in a format that's comfortable for them. So why speak the buyer's language? Well, because people, as you know, click away from sites and pages rather quickly. That's why the one-step checkout is very famous and loved, because the more clicks you send a user through, the more the drop-off gets. So people want to shop in their local language, and we also don't want to make them click through. So teams dealing with 156 offices, I teach workshops in e-commerce. I teach them about content and the culture that they have to deliver their content in. So what are the challenges for us? First of all, we have to determine where our targeted audience is living. One of our favorite audiences is dealing with Nairobi or Kenyan doctors who are actually in the States, where I'm from. So we always make the joke there are more Kenyan doctors in Manhattan than there are actually in Nairobi itself. So we like to target them, choose them out, because we can get donations from them, and they donate back to different missions in our local audience. So we target them based on their behaviors, their interests, language, we know their background. So that's where we find our audience, but we want to deliver content that to them seems like it's from back home. So that's our content, what device they're using. The device they're probably using in Manhattan is a lot different than a basic phone that you're probably using for an average Kenyan user. And that's the presentation. The pace that we work at is quite different. Sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating. And then, of course, payments are a challenge. You have to deliver a landing page that actually is something that your targeted audience can give you money on. They can buy a product. You have to be able to deliver it. They have to be able to pay in a currency that works for them and is not too expensive for you to convert the money. So something like this, just American English versus British English, the first line is reversed. A simple change in spelling automatically tells the user that this is a little bit different site than I might have been expecting to land on. A word choice, like our second line, could be slightly crude or offensive, or the third line itself just doesn't quite make sense unless you're a little bit multicultural. And it's just short, small tip-offs like this that indicate to our buyer that something is different. Most judgments to a site are just based on color alone. Like we saw in the session before us where Mike was hosting, something like color can mean it's associated with death or it's lucky. Something that's black might be considered ominous or it might be considered serious. So the people that I work with in Latin America always love color And so the Portuguese office, same thing. They just want more color. And then when I work with sub-Saharan Africa, like Uganda, Ghana, they want all the colors. So I always kind of laugh because as an American, we want something that looks a little more serious and solemn, and they want it to be like really bright, and we would call it kind of shouty. So we sort of have that battle all the time. So your users will leave in 15 seconds if they're confused. Google wants you to deliver a site loading page that's about 3 seconds. We have our core web vitals. But most of your users will just leave if they're put off or confused. This down here is a kind of an office joke with the shopping basket, a shopping bag, and cart. It's 3 different ways to indicate to the user that that's where the checkout process is. 3 different ways to say it. They all work, but one of them has to be for your actual audience. So your user is expecting a certain design, look, and appeal, a navigation or a link tree that makes sense to them. And your navigation alone is a culture for your site because it can indicate what's available there. If I go to a food site and I see that the top navigation has organic or non-GMO or vegan, the user automatically thinks that that's probably expensive and it might not be what they want, and they simply leave. So most popular networks are always changing. You have to keep on top of that, where your audience actually is. And of course, we saw in 2022 that TikTok actually surpassed Google as the most visited site. And TikTok has become much more of an informational and educational site, not so much dance and cooking videos anymore. My intended target, their lifestyle also determines their choices. They may want something that's fancy or something that's basic and have an expectation based on that. So what do we see that's kind of new for culture in 2022? We see outside influences, outside your own country, influencing buying decisions. So this is Ted Lasso in America, sort of a joke that an American broadcast station did, and it actually turned into a Netflix series of 7 seasons. So it's an American coach who does football. So it turned into, this is an example of a weird cultural, it's on YouTube. So this is Manchester United, Real Madrid. It's a strange advertisement because you see Nike and Adidas in the same advertisement together, but it's not advertising for either, it's actually for Pepsi. So you have 2 football players in the American Wild West. Somehow this advertisement actually works culturally. It's very weird, but they pulled it off. Then we also, we're not going to advance anymore. Can you advance? There we go. Sometimes you see politics really go badly on you. So if you know the Super League story with football, you had 13 or 15 teams trying to secede, form their own league for more profits, really blew up on them, and we saw politics, a lot of backlash from the public. And this is the kind of thing that in our culture and content and e-commerce, it's becoming more and more of an influence. I have outside influences outside my own country, not necessarily something to do with what I'm trying to advertise into who, having a big influence. We have many ways to present the same content, always being mindful of the device, the format, how the user is going to see it, and how the local is going to see it. And your navigation must make sense and present it up front. COVID accelerated our mobile payments technology by about 3 years, not so much in the States, but everywhere else. And this is something that we'll continue to see new. We have the concept of social commerce, where people come into, say, a WhatsApp chat and a business account, and they complete the sale there rather than on the website itself. And that's expected to double through 2025. It can be handled somewhat with bots, but your customer service team has to do it well. And there's an issue of trust. This is actually from one of our sites. It's our Ghana site, which we use to advertise outside the borders. And I always kind of get on them about this because it just looks not so trustworthy. And something simple like a logo for a payment card can send someone away because they think it's not so trustworthy. So you want to work with the native currency that your user can actually pay in, that's economical for you to convert. Work with a local person for language translations to check on the actual content, respect colors, convention, and work in a local language. So that's how you can get a hold of me, and I hope to connect with you on WhatsApp.